What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Roman's Creative Academy. As always, I'm Jay.
And I'm Mike.
And today's topic, we're going to talk about something that's really scary for people, right? And that is the moment we knew we were firing our bosses and how exactly we got there, right?
Now, I'd always say up front, and I always like to say this from the beginning, there's some people who love their jobs, right? A job meaning, you go to work every day, you clock in, you clock out. There's some people who love it, and there's some people who hate it. If you're one of the people who love it, just listen along. It doesn't mean that you need to quit your job in order to buy and sell real estate and do what we do. But there are some people like ourselves who did want to get away from that and wanted to create our own business. So I always like to say that up front.
Yep, and if you know us or you've probably heard our story, we're going to kind of recap a little bit on how it went down because it wasn't your traditional way of getting there, right?
No. Really, it all came down to this, right? Just to start from the top, or else it wouldn't make sense. Back in like 2020, or I think it was November or December, we closed on our first property, right? We went through a bank, we spent all of our money, and we crushed our debt to income to the point where we were thinking about buying another home, and we couldn't even get pre-approved again. And at that point, we knew that we didn't want to do hard money. We didn't want to do all these fancy investment loans, but we also didn't know jack crap about it, right?
But all we knew was we wanted to scale our portfolio, right?
And continue growing and not get stuck in the cycle of, okay, we buy one or two homes and we call ourselves investors and we make a few $100 a month off them, right? To us, that wasn't enough. That was just like basically just touching the tip of the iceberg with our finger.
Yep, so like Mike said, we hit that debt to income problem. We had spent all of our cash really buying our first rental, off the bat. So we needed to find a different way to keep scaling.
Yep.
And keep buying houses.
And really, this was right around the time that COVID happened. So there was like no real meetups. We were just getting into investing, and at that point, having no meetups, no nothing, we didn't know really where to go. So we wound up getting involved in online communities, right? And we were just trying to figure out what was next. So that's where we heard about creative financing. And once we heard about creative financing, we realized that this was definitely the key. And instead of going down the rabbit hole of YouTube University, and if you know myself especially, and potentially Jay sometimes, we are not people to kind of just be patient and wait around and hope that something comes.
I'll say that's mostly him.
Yeah. We're going to take the hammer and we're going to break down the wall. So that's exactly what we did. Is we took that hammer, we broke down the wall, and we hired coaches in order to get us on the fast track to learn creative financing and how to do these deals, right? Always remember, you're either trading your time for money or your money for time, right? So in this instance, we traded our money for time.
Yep. And so as we went through the coaching program, we really figured out that, hey, we should probably capitalize on all of our leads, right? We're putting, at the beginning, we didn't spend money, right, on marketing, advertising, but every lead that came through, we knew we could make money off of. Yep. So we decided to capitalize on all of our leads. And what do we mean by that? We decided to create a business, a wholesaling business, because we had these leads that maybe didn't work for us, but someone else would be interested in buying, and we could help a seller while doing all of that, right?
Absolutely. And it really came down to, like, right after we had hired coaches, we learned everything, and me and Jay, we started buying properties, right? Like immediately within the first few months. We had bought a couple properties right off the bat. And at that point, we're like, all right, before we get too deep here, like, let's pull the throttle back. But we have all these leads, all these sellers that we can work with that are open to some sort of creative financing. And then we, like Jay said, we realized that other investors really were looking for this stuff too. So instead of just letting dollars fly out the door, we got to keep the lights on, right? We got to keep the money flowing. So we created an active income source out of it by assigning these terms.
Yep. And so we still had a W-2 then as we were doing all of this, but we started to see signs, right? We started to see signs that, hey, we're doing pretty good. But it wasn't until our jobs were like, hey, we need you to come back to the office. COVID's over, so come on back, that we both looked at each other and said, uh-oh.
Yep. We, like in December, so right around December of 22 is when we really started to go hard on building a process and start to assign deals and what that would look like. And right around, I think it was May, is when our job started pressing us we have to come back at least 3 or 4 days a week. If we were to do that, you have to think about it, right? You're now sitting back at your office, your boss is walking around, and what are you going to be doing? You're going to be taking calls. That was the beauty of working from home. We were able to get our jobs done, but we were also able to do the other things that we wanted to do and build something.
But not only that, let's talk about the commute to work, the commute back from work. That's all time.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. So at one point or another, me and Jay looked at each other and we said, let's sit down and see how much we've made since December after wholesaling about, I think it was 10 deals. And these are all with free leads, all different ways that we talk about with our students, right? And we realized that we made almost 6 figures, which was more than Jay's salary, in 6 months with no cost per contract. At that point, we said, okay.
We were definitely at a crossroads, right?
We were right here, literally at the intersection. And we can go left down the fork or we can go right. And
one felt really safe, right? If we went back to our W-2, that was guaranteed, right? Super safe. But if you go down the other road, you don't know what's coming, right?
And what we did was, honestly, we did a little bit of both. So my job wasn't requesting me to come back at the same time that Jay's was, but mine eventually did. I said, let me go left. Let's one of us still have that job source and one of us go right. Because I was making a little bit more yearly than Jay, we said, all right, Jay, you go right, you quit, you start doing what you got to do. I would say about a month down my left road, my left fork.
He said about because he didn't last that long.
No. I saw like a little crossover median divider, and I looked at Jay as she was cruising along and, doing what she has to do when she wants to do it. And I said, yeah, I'm out. So I crossed over that median divider, and we both wind up going down that fork. Sometimes you need to do what you need to do to make sure that you are making the right choice, right? Whether it's you get a contractor estimate 3-4 times, you take your own path to tell yourself the honest truth. Yes, I think the other option is the better option for me, right? And it could go vice versa. But this is how we knew that we needed to quit, right? And if we both put our time and energy, we both knew that us together, yes, we're going to have to sacrifice. Yes, we're not going to be going out partying, going crazy throughout the summer like all of our other friends were at that point. We need to pull back. We need to sacrifice now in order to gain later, because we knew at minimum in the next 6 to 12 months our business would triple if we both quit and if we put our hard-earned energy into it, which it did.
Now, we did do some things to be a little bit proactive, right, and not just go in blind.
Yep.
So the first thing that we did was we created a budget, but not only a budget for ourselves and what we needed to just live, but also a budget for our business,
Yep.
right? There are expenses for your business. They need to get paid as well.
Now, I will say we looked very far into the future when we even hired a coach, right? Mm-hmm. We hired a coach in April of 21. I would say about 2 months later, we knew that it was something that we wanted to do, meaning that we were going to go full time, but we just didn't know when. But we knew the first thing was we have to cut expenses and we have to create a budget. So the first thing we did after we hired a coach was we ended our lease that we were paying $1,800 a month for a beautiful apartment in Philly, and we moved in with my mom, which was only supposed to be for a couple months and wound up turning into like 6 months. And what we did was we bought a multifamily, and we house hacked to the point where we were at, this is the house that we're in now, that we only were out of pocket like $300 a month, right, to live, which is amazing. That was able to help catapult us and feel safe knowing that our living expenses are being paid. So all we need is some spending money for food, and put money into the business.
Yeah. And like I was mentioning before, is that a lot of people take the route of, everything that I make, I'm just going to put it right back into the business, right? And not pay myself for the time and energy that I've put in, right? Think about it this way. Your business is an entity within itself, by itself. You are an employee of that entity, so treat it as such. Don't treat yourself as one, right? Because you need to pay yourself for your time. So, Profit First, the book, if you've never read it before, we highly, highly, highly recommend it. And we'll put the link in the description for you guys to check it out. It is not only the way to set up your bank accounts for when you do your business, but also this idea of how much do I pay myself for my time when your business is starting up?
Yep, exactly. And just to be frank with you, we were living off of, I think, 10% of everything we made for a very long time. I would think, say, over a year. It's only now that we've bumped it up, and we're still only living off of about 20 to 25% of everything we make. The business eats very well still. Let's put it that way. So does Uncle Sam, unfortunately. But
He didn't say that.
Now, to give you an idea, we also mapped out when we were doing our budget what our red zone was, meaning that we knew like if our bank accounts or if our funds or reserves went below a certain point, we knew we had to figure something out, and we knew we had to basically take that next step and say, okay, it's either we pivot and we find out what's going wrong, why we're not making money, or one of us needs to go back and get a job, right? And we have stuck true to that. And that is what has given us the confidence and ability to feel comfortable enough to continue moving forward, even when, it's low, right? And we're going to get into this in a second. It's called the entrepreneurial wave of income and expenses, right? But knowing...
Yeah, so I was going to say, let's get right into it, where it's like we get those questions asked. Mike, Jay, like, if you knew then what you know now, what would you change? What would be different?
Absolutely. Like, kind of just looking back from the day that we quit our jobs, right? I mean, this was really cool. But after that, we kind of took like a hiatus for a while for doing anything. But literally, I quit on a Monday, and Friday, we flew out to Puerto Rico.
We were wild child.
Yeah. Literally that Friday, we bounced, and we were there for a month. We were still working every day, still doing closing calls, still closing deals. We actually closed, I think, a deal while we were out there, right? Mm-hmm. And we made another one. And we were living with Jay's grandparents, which was sick. It was amazing.
Must I say, it was really hard. We were testing the fact of, like, can we truly work from anywhere? Yes. The answer is yes. Yes, you can. Yep. But is it really, really freaking hard? Oh, yeah, because all you want to do is go explore, go do things. But that really set us up for boundaries.
That is a true testament of self-control, right? Can you have self-control when you're doing these things, right? Can you set these boundaries, like Jay just said, where in the morning, maybe you do what you want to do. Then you work, and that's it. You're going to work, and then maybe when we're in Puerto Rico, we take a small portion throughout the day and maybe go to the beach or we go do whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But you need to remember these things, that when it's work time, but when it's playtime and relaxing.
This is being realistic as an entrepreneur. The things you see online sometimes where people just do what they want when they want.
That's BS.
That is total BS, especially in your start out phase with your business. You have
5 years.
You have to understand that you are sacrificing a lot of your time at the beginning for the fruitful reward in the future, right? So I just want to mention that because it's like, oh, you're your own boss. You get to do whatever you want. Yes, I do get to do whatever I want.
But if I did whatever I wanted all the time, I'd have no money. So that's just being real, right? Yeah, we work crap load more than we did when we had our other jobs. But we can also do whatever we want when we want. Last Thursday, I went out to our new primary we just bought with with creative financing, and me and Jay's dad were ripping out flooring. I'm still taking phone calls while we're there. We're doing things, right? If I had like a 9 to 5, I would be in an office and I wouldn't be out to that house until Friday night where I'm exhausted, have a day and a half to do something, right? That's where you have to remember the fine line between, is this something that's going to hinder you or help you for right now?
Now let's flip the role, right? Boundaries for you to work, and then boundaries for work not to take your life over. You're still a human being. So when we say boundaries, it means set those business hours for yourself. Are you a morning person? Can you get things done from 7 to 3?
Now, in a real estate, if you're building a business like we have and we are continue to creating, this is also not around what times you feel like you want to work. It's when your sellers are truly available and you track all that stuff when they're there, right? Some days we know that our sellers like to be talking at 7, 8 o'clock at night. So we don't start our day at 8, 9 o'clock. We start our day later because we know we're going to work later, right? And vice versa on other days.
And even other companies, right? You have to take into account that when holidays come around, no one's working. So nothing's really going to get done unless there are things that you within your company need to get done. I'll bring up transaction coordinating. If your transaction coordinator works from 9 to 5, they're not going to be available before 9 and after 5 unless it's something dire. It's the same thing with attorneys and title companies. So take that all into consideration when you're doing your business hours.
Yep. And then lastly, remember the entrepreneurial wave. No matter what business you're in, every entrepreneur, goes through this and feels and sees that wave, right? Meaning, literally think about an ocean wave. There's a crest and there's a trench, right? And then it keeps going back up, back and up. When you're at the bottom and in entrepreneurship, there are months, maybe sometimes a couple weeks, where it's dry, man. And I'm talking their leads are slow, you're not writing contracts, money could be flying out the door for one reason or another, and you're looking at yourself white in the face like, I don't know what we're going to do, right? It always comes back around. You just have to stick through it and push. And when you're in those lows, remember the highs. When you're at the crest, where you're crushing deals, you got 4 closings this week, your bank accounts are looking pretty, you can go do whatever you want, right? When you're at the top, don't forget about the bottom because it's coming back again, right? And it happens with everybody. It's just entrepreneurship is actually closing the gap between the low and the high so it's not as so inconsistent. You want to be as flatlined as possible. So instead of going up high, making a ton of money, and then making nothing for a while because you're inconsistent, because when you're high, the lows are because when you were up high, you got full and you stopped. Then you have a low. And the lows create the highs again because now you're hungry and you're scared and you're working your butt off. So it's remember to, at the highs, remember the lows, and at the lows, remember the highs so they level each other out.
I want to bring something up, and we didn't have this plan to talk to you guys about, but as you're talking about that, it comes to mind the statistic of a millionaire or a billionaire, one of the two or both. They have an average income source, 7 different income sources.
The average millionaire has 7 income sources, meaning that you have a rent, like right now, we're building up to 7 income sources. We're working on that, right? Rental income, wholesaling, so on and so forth, right? All of those different things, you need to couple them together. What is one thing that we always talk about in our business is we don't want one point of failure, meaning that we don't want one person to only know that position. We don't want only one lead source. We don't want whatever it may be, right? if you have one point of failure, meaning you only have one income source, what if that well stops tomorrow? You have no money, right? It's the same thing when you have a W-2 job, which is why we decided to do this, because you can get fired tomorrow, and I've seen it happen to my mom in the past year. I've seen it happen to some of my friends, everybody, right? And I guess it loves the thumbs up, right? That is the big thing, is you need to think about this stuff when you're in the business.
Yep. So let's wrap it up here.
Yep.
And basically from this whole conversation we've had with you guys is what actionable steps can you take if you're thinking about, hey, time to let go of this W-2. I think I can do it. I think the first and foremost one that you need to do is create a budget, like we mentioned, for yourself and your business. That is first and foremost. Some people, they're like, oh, I need to sacrifice all of this. We weren't those people. We wanted to keep the lifestyle and even create a better lifestyle for ourselves. So why not start the baseline there instead of taking a hit and going and sacrificing more? You know what I mean?
Create that, like Jay said, create that budget for yourself and your business. Then second, look, me and Jay are huge advocates for this. You pay for what you get for. Mm-hmm. If you're going to go to YouTube University, that's great. I do it sometimes too, but not to learn a whole new strategy where you can really get yourself in a bind for years to come. If you want to truly excel and truly move forward and hit the goals and the dreams that you want, hire a coach, right? Mm-hmm. Just flat out. It is the best way in order for you to get to where you want to go, not only on the fast track, but also the correct way. There's a ton of coaches out there. We always advise doing your research, but make sure that if you truly are serious and you are serious with yourself, you need to hire a coach, no matter what type of business it is.
Uncharted territories are scary.
Yep.
Allow someone to hold your hand doing that, right? And I always go back to this. Know the type of learner you are before you buy any type of education source. So if you're good at teaching yourself, modules is okay. If you are not and you need that extra accountability, whatever that is, and you have a lot of questions when you're going through something, do one-on-one. Maybe a mixture of both, small group. Figure it out and then go from there. And then third, lastly, is don't be afraid. Because maybe you feel secure with your W-2, don't let that be your security and then someday you get, slapped in the face when they say, hey, we're laying you off.
Yep.
And that's the worst feeling you could get. So remember, don't let the what ifs eat at you. Just be well prepared and take the jump.
Exactly. So guys, with that being said, we always appreciate you tuning in and listening and kind of always giving us some feedback. If you love the video, what we want you to do today is like, comment, and subscribe below. We're going to have some links like we always do in the comments. Make sure to check them out. If you have any questions, let us know. And P.S., we are opening up our waitlist again for our one-on-one coaching. So if you want, that waitlist is going to be in the bottom. Fill it out, takes 5 seconds, and we'll reach out.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram as well. I'm Roman with Jay.
And I'm Roman with Mike, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.